Quick question, how does the wimp that got his beat like this? Eesh. Turn into a cyborg badass like this?
Thanks, chum. I know how to fly just fine.
In less than a year? Well, I guess we'll find out soon enough. The first episode of Cyberpunk Edgerunners opens with a glorious shot of Night City before we zero in on one man. Oh god, he's wearing sunglasses at night. Oh, you know he's up to no good. Sure enough, the man walks to a cop car and blows the poor sob's brains out. The madman then proceeds to attack the rest of the policemen there as they desperately try to shoot at him, only for their bullets to just bounce off of him. One of the policemen says there's no doubt about it. This is cyberpsychosis, and they need MaxTac. We'll cover cyberpsychosis later, but for now, all you need to know is that MaxTac are the people who take out cyberpsychos. Anyway, the man continues his assault on the policemen, taking them out in the most brutal ways possible. He then activates a device in his spine called the Sandevistan. With the Sandevistan, he slows down time and moves through it, taking out multiple policemen in the blink of an eye. Ah, that was cool. Brutal, but cool. Unfortunately for our cyberpsycho here, his time is up, because he's surrounded by a red light, and that means MaxTac is here. The MaxTac soldiers use an EMP, a pulse that destroys all the machines it touches, to fry his system before circling him. They then shoot him over and over and over again. The cyberpsycho tries to fight back, but it's no use. A MaxTac soldier puts the barrel of their gun right into his face, and that's the last thing our cyberpsycho sees. Gosh, now how's that for an opening scene? Soon enough, we see a kid tweaking in his bed. Okay, let me explain. Turns out, the scene we just saw were the final moments of a rogue soldier. Final moments which one David Martinez was experiencing via a BD, which just means a super futuristic version of VR. Oh, and this guy, he's our main character, by the way. After he's done with the memory chip, David gets a call from a Ripper doc, the doctor who gave it to David. After some reviews, he shows David another kind of chip, and well, let's just say David has an accident because of it. Gross. So David tries washing his clothes, only for his washing machine to stop working because they haven't paid the bill yet. You see, David lives with his mother, Gloria Martinez, a paramedic and a single mom who works the night shift. Also, she can support her son and get him through school. Legend. After saying hi to his mom, David gets ready for school. Meanwhile, the news in the background says the Sandevistan was missing from the scene of the crime. And after David leaves for school, Gloria calls someone named Maine. I'm sure it has nothing to do with the Sandevistan. Meanwhile, David walks to school through Santo Domingo, and we get one of the coolest scenes in the entire show. It's just David walking through Night City with the incredibly catchy Who's Ready for Tomorrow playing in the background. Simply put, this sequence shows the divide in Night City. Sure, technology has advanced so much that every human is part machine, but social injustice, poverty, and homelessness are still the same. I'd say that's a pretty accurate picturization of the future. Humans may have evolved, but humanity remains the same. Of course, David doesn't care about all that, and after being slightly distracted by a girl with a bob cut on his way to school, David finally makes it to Arasaka Academy. Arasaka Academy belongs to Arasaka, which is like the final boss of all capitalist companies. David is at the academy, and as you can imagine, he sticks out like a sore thumb. Everyone else there is the kid of some sort of hotshot corporate slave, but David is just some poor kid trying to make it. He gets harassed by his classmate Katsuo for being poor, but David just ignores him. Unfortunately for David, because he tried getting Ripperdoc to give him the new and expensive chip update at Arasaka Academy for much cheaper, it malfunctions. As a result, David gets in trouble with the principal, and Gloria has to come to school and apologize, agreeing to pay for the damages. On their way back, she tears into David for screwing up, but David isn't too bothered. In fact, he says he should drop out and look for work, and that makes Gloria cry. Damn. According to her, everything she does is for David. All she wants to do is give her smart, talented son a shot at being successful. She wants to see him work hard and make his way to the top of Arasaka Tower. But before Gloria can finish, their car gets caught between two rival gangs, who open fire on each other. Gloria and David manage to survive the bullets, but when one gang blows up the other's car, it crashes into David and Gloria. Oh no! When David comes to, he's upside down in the car with Gloria lying on the road. That's when the paramedics call the trauma team, and David is relieved as they show up. But these bastards scan Gloria and David, realize that they're not paying clients, and leave them to die. Maybe their name is Trauma Team because they give people trauma. Like, what the hell was that? David then screams out for his mom as the scene fades to black. When we see David again, he's at the hospital. His mom is okay, but she needs to be held for a few more days. In the meantime, he needs to pay her bills, so David goes home only to see it's locked because they haven't paid rent. Shocker. David sneaks in anyway and finds his mom's second account where she's saved a lot of money, enough to cover her bills. He then starts fiddling with his mom's stuff and finds something shocking. The Sandevistan. David doesn't know what it is, just that it's a military-grade implant. He even tries selling it, but doesn't when Ripper Doc lowballs him. The next day at school, David gets cornered by Katsuo and his lackeys. You see, Katsuo hates David, but not because he's poor. It's because David is different, and Katsuo doesn't like that. Another shocker. He tells David to drop out, but of course, David refuses. So Katsuo starts saying some nasty shit about Gloria. Rat bastard! David has had enough, and tries to walk away, only for Katsuo to push him and start a fight. David swings a punch at him, and instantly regrets it. Katsuo's a rich bastard, and he has the latest kung fu chip, as well as steel knuckle implants. With them, he goes full-on Bruce Lee on David's ass, beating him into a bloody pulp and sending him flying into a dumpster. Ooh, poor guy. Katsuo leaves, but then things go from bad to worse real quick. David gets a call from the hospital. When he gets there, they break the news. Turns out Gloria is dead. No! Poor David. He already spent their entire life savings on Gloria's medical bills, and now he can't even afford a burial. So he has his mom cremated and takes her home. Along the way, he gets messages from his landlord, the utility department, and the school, all asking for their long overdue bills. David just breaks into his home, tries selling the Sandevistan again, fails again, and starts screaming in frustration. That's when he gets a call from Katsuo. The bastard heard about Gloria and starts tearing into David for making his mom suffer just to study at an academy he doesn't belong to. And at that exact moment, remembering everything his mom did for him and how Night City repaid her, David snaps. He heads over to Ripper Doc, Sandevistan in hand. Doc says no one's gonna buy that thing from him, but David's not here to sell. He wants the Sandevistan implanted into his spine. It's high time he chromed up. Welcome to Night City, baby. It only gets wilder from here. Episode 2 starts with Doc refusing to put the Sandevistan in David. As he puts it, you can only support as much tech as your frame. David is a kid, and the Sandy is a military-grade implant. David doesn't care though, and wants it anyway. So, Doc says he'll do it, but when David comes crying to have it removed, Doc gets it for free. With that, he begins the brutal process of putting in the Sandy. Yeah, that shit's hard to watch. Yeesh. The next day, wearing his mom's jacket, David shows up to school and picks a fight with Katsuo. Katsuo tries his kung fu again, but David uses the Sandy to move at super speed and punches the chrome out of him. He then leaves the school. There's no going back after the shit he pulled. Still, he just laughs about it before disappearing using the Sandy. Meanwhile, the footage of him kicking Katsuo's ass is shown to Katsuo's dad, Mr. Tanaka, who works for Arasaka. They realize David is using the Sandy, and unlike the previous owner, he's not showing any side effects of using it. So, Katsuo's dad tells them to bring David in by offering financial aid. He could be a prime lab rat for them. Sick. David, meanwhile, gets home and gets a call from the principal. But before the principal finishes detailing his offer to let David back in the school, David cuts the call. He then spends the rest of his day hanging around the poor of Night City, depressed as hell. The poor kid's just 17. David then gets on a train and is wallowing in sadness when he sees the bob cut girl from earlier. She's going around the train, stealing memory chips from every Arasaka employee. She then tries to steal David's chip, but he stops her with his Sandy. Bob cut girl then corners him and scans his file. After they talk for a bit, she realizes he's not a corporate pig and makes him an offer. They can work together to steal Arasaka employee chips, and she'll give him 30% of the cut. Finally, some hope! David agrees, and the bob cut girl introduces herself as Lucy. Together, David and Lucy begin robbing every Arasaka employee they can find. And with David's Sandy, it's a piece of cake. Unfortunately though, when they get out, David's nose starts bleeding and he passes out. He then wakes up in an ambulance with Lucy Lucy and a paramedic, where they find out that David wasn't taking any medicine to counteract the Sandy, which is something you're supposed to do for small implants, let alone a military-grade one. Lucy just laughs. This kid's a psycho. Things go south when the paramedic pulls a gun on David. She wants the Sandy. Ugh, standard Night City paramedic. Except Gloria, yeah. Lucy says that David's cut is down to 20% before kicking the stretcher into the paramedic. She then opens the door and gets on the stretcher, sliding them both out onto the open road. She navigates left and right, dodging cars and laughing like a maniac along the way. David's eyes say it all. I think he's in love, and I think I am too. God, she's so cool. Lucy stops the stretcher, only to see David has puked all over himself. He then asks her to take him to Ripper Doc, so she does. There, Doc asks David how many times he used the Sandy, and he says 8 times, to which Doc loses his freaking mind. According to him, using it that much is a one-way road to cyberpsychosis. Basically, when you have too many implants and use them too much, they mess with your brain and turn you into a murderous zombie. Yeah, that's cyberpsychosis. Lucy uses their entire thief money to buy David 2 days worth of meds, and Doc gives it to him straight. He either uses the Sandy 3 times a day max, or he'll go insane. After that, David meets Lucy outside, and she takes him to her apartment. There, she makes fun of him for being nervous, and for not smoking or drinking beer. Talk about peer pressure, Jesus. In return, David makes fun of the poster on Lucy's wall. It's about taking a trip to the moon. Lucy is immediately offended, so David dials it back. They start talking, and David tells her all about his mom and the academy. Lucy asks why he kept going there if he hated it, and David says it was his mom's dream. Lucy says that's unfair. He should live for his own dream. David disagrees, so Lucy says she wants to show him something. We then see them both hooked up to a BD machine. Inside, Lucy takes David to the moon. The BD is super immersive, and David is psyched. Over this beautiful song called I Really Want to Stay at Your House, David and Lucy go around the moon, testing zero gravity, riding a buggy, and wearing space helmets. After that, they sit and look at the Earth, and Lucy says she's never shown this to anyone else, before saying she and David would make a great team. David agrees and smiles. Aww, our boy here is ready for his new life, until he hears a deep voice calling him a punk. Suddenly, he's yanked off the moon and back to the real world, to see a gang of hard-looking Edgerunners, aka criminals, staring at him. The guy in front is Maine, who says that the Sandy that David is wearing belongs to him. David looks over at Lucy, who's just smoking a cigarette. She sold him out. Yeah, it did feel too good to be true for a while there. Before David can say anything, Maine punches his teeth in. God, just when you think you know what's happening, Night City shows just how wrong you are. The next episode kicks off with Maine holding David upside down, telling David he messed up big time by stealing his Sandy. David is confused until Maine mentions his supplier's name, Gloria Martinez. So David tells Maine he's Gloria's son and that she's died. Maine then instantly eases up. He says Gloria was good people and offers his condolences. Still, they need to do something about the Sandy. David offers to work for Maine, saying he'll pay him back 1 job at a time. Maine refuses, until David says he used it 8 times in 1 day. He then uses it twice to snatch a cigarette from Pilar before putting it back in his hands. With that, Maine decides to give David a shot. Lucy puts a tracker chip on him, just in case he bails, and with that, the Edgerunners leave. David feels betrayed by Lucy, but she doesn't really care and tells him to go home, offering her condolences for his mom before he leaves. But one look at her and I know she feels bad. David goes back home and waits for Maine's call. That's when the principal calls him again, this time offering a full scholarship, which David declines. Immediately after, Maine calls him. It's time. David heads over to their hideout and is formally introduced to Dorio, Maine's girlfriend and resident badass, and Kiwi, a netrunner aka hacker. Maine tells David about the job. Basically, they need to steal the navigation info from an Arasaka car. To do this, they're hitting the driver, a man named Maxime. After Maine and Dorio make this Maxime guy lose a bet on illegal boxing, they know that he's gonna show up to his favorite bar to drown his sorrows. There, David is sent to steal the car keys from him, which he does, and as that happens, Dorio begins downloading the data. The plan is going smoothly until Maxime gets called in by his boss, on his day off too. Poor guy. So while another teammate named Rebecca, the goat, by the way, distracts Maxime. Lucy and David get in the car to get the info directly. Lucy manages to get it, but they can't get out of the car. The security system is suddenly back up. Oh boy. That's when Maxime shows up and starts shooting at the window. Maine says they have no choice. David needs to start the car and get away in it. David says he can't drive, but Maine says it's time to learn. In fact, it's time for David to show him he's got what it takes. So David pushes the start button and backs up into a streetlight. He then drives forward, also into a streetlight, before driving off. Maxime can't chase them on foot, so he sends 2 Tiger Claws, mercenaries on bikes, after him. Maine tells them to get to Aldo's. So David gets on the highway and immediately is stopped by traffic. With the Tiger Claws gaining on them, David uses the Sandy to maneuver the car onto the other side. One of the claws crashes into traffic while the others keep chasing them. David keeps using his Sandy to dodge oncoming traffic and manages to get the Tiger Claw crushed under a truck. With the coast clear, Lucy and David make it to Aldo's, only for the first Tiger Claw to attack them from out of nowhere. David dodges, but the Tiger Claw traps him and is about to make him into a shish kebab, but Lucy shows up and saves him. So David uses his Sandy to make a final blow, but well, he ends up on his again. The Tiger Claw then goes in for the kill, and not even Lucy chopping off his arm stops him. But you know who does? Maine! He shows up at the last second, blocking the tiger's blade with his car. He then punches him in the face before unleashing a gun and blowing him to smithereens. Oh, cool! David, exhausted from the Sandy and getting his kicked, just passes out. Later at night, the whole crew goes to celebrate, and Maine officially welcomes David to the crew. He then gives David his cut and enough medicine for a month. Chad! He then gives him some advice. 1. Never trust anyone more than yourself. And 2. Invest in some more implants. The Sandy alone can only take him so far. Maine is the real OG, I tell ya. That's when a limo shows up, and a man with 4 eyes steps out. His name is Faraday, and I regret to inform you that he's got that on! He walks up to Maine and basically tells him that they messed up the mission. The point of the mission was to secretly get the data so he could find out where and when Mr. Tanaka, yes, Katsuo's dad, goes on a daily basis. But thanks to their stunt, he's wised up and is being cautious now. Maine asks Faraday for more info, but Faraday says that's none of his business. All he needs to worry about is doing the job correctly. Faraday then says he'll be in touch and leaves. Maine explains to David that Faraday is a fixer, i.e. a middleman who gets them jobs, and as much as Maine hates him, they need Faraday to get paid. Still, he tells David not to worry about it and heads off to party. Meanwhile, David looks longingly at Lucy, who's being hit on by Pilar. That's when Rebecca introduces herself to David. She's Pilar's little sister. After Rebecca leaves, David sees Lucy and Pilar are gone. David just sighs and takes a sip of his beer before spitting it out. He hates fizzy drinks. The following episode starts with David's Sandy being active, and he's looking at something in pure horror. That's when Maine pushes him out of the way, and suddenly, there are explosions. Oh boy. That's in the future though. For now, Maine is just figuring out what the hell Faraday is up to. After he gives up on it, he starts making out with Dorio, only for David to call him. Ah, bad timing, kid. David asks Maine for work. He's desperate for something, anything. So Maine tasks him with delivering something to Pilar. David heads over to Aldo's, gets the package, and knocks on Pilar's door. Rebecca greets him with a gun to his face. Intense much? David then hands the package over. Rebecca tips him, calls him adorable, and sends him on his way. Ooh, I think she likes him. That's when Lucy calls David, asking if he's free tonight. Unfortunately, it's not for a date, though. Maine bullied Lucy into making sure David gets into Edgerunner shape. Bummer. While David runs with Lucy, we get a montage of him settling into the crew. They do jobs together. David gets his ass beat at first, but then slowly starts helping them out in meaningful ways. Between this, we see Maine giving David some more advice. He hands David a gun and says to never leave the house without 3 things. His gun, his wallet, and his, well, protection. Kinda useful, I gotta say. Maine then asks David how things are going with Lucy. David says they're not going anywhere. Lucy just isn't into him. Yikes. He then learns that she's a netrunner too, just like Kiwi. Later, we see David spending time with Dorio, Pilar, and Rebecca, getting closer to everyone in the crew. Looks like the Academy boy is settling in nicely, guys. After their run is over, Lucy tells David she's impressed he kept up. She then gives him a training regimen, saying he's on his own from now. Meanwhile, Maine tells David to grow some balls and talk to Lucy before they both inject their medicine. David then graffitis his mom's jacket, and we get the iconic David Martinez look. With that, David is happy. He's found a new family. Aww. The crew is then walking through an alley when they see a guy nearby is pissing into a can. Pilar takes huge issue with this and begins harassing the guy. Pilar then sees the guy's implants, and they're crazy. Right as he blows Pilar's face off. Ah, damn, our guy has just run into a cyber psycho. David instinctively activates his Sandy, but is frozen in fear. The cyber psycho launches a rocket straight at him, so Maine kicks him out of the way. Rebecca loses her mind and starts shooting the cyber psycho. Maine tries stopping her, but it's useless, so Kiwi fries her system. That's when David sees Lucy is right next to the cyber psycho. She tries frying him, but all that does is make him come after her. David uses his Sandy, jumps in, and shoots the cyber psycho right in the head. He then checks on Lucy, only for the psycho to point his gun at David's head. Maine manages to save him, but it was only by the skin of his teeth. God damn, that was intense! Lucy is bleeding from the head, so Maine tells Dorio and David to take her to Ripperdoc while he handles the police. They go there, and Dorio leaves David with Maine's car, telling him to take Lucy home. S-tier wingman right there. After Lucy is patched up, David takes her home. She's about to go in, but David says he wants to talk, so they go to the roof. There, Lucy says she wasn't lying about never showing anyone her moon BD, and David says he believes her. When she asks why, David says it's because he wants to. Oh, I'm getting feelings. They talk for a bit, and Lucy tells David something important about what they do. As an Edgerunner, it's not how you live. How you die is how people remember you. Lucy says that's not what David deserves, saying he's different. David asks Lucy what's so different about him, and when she doesn't respond, he makes a promise. He'll take her to the moon. With that, Lucy just grabs his face and kisses him. She doesn't want him to die. David says he won't, and they kiss again. Oh, yes. It's only been 4 episodes, but I feel like I've been waiting for this forever. Episode 5 starts with Maine and David talking, while Kiwi does some digging on Mr. Tanaka. As Maine teases David for getting with Lucy, Kiwi comes out, booty butt naked by the way, and says she couldn't find anything. All she got is that Tanaka is into some really weird BD stuff, and that it's all made by the same guy, Jimmy Kurosaki. David happens to know who that is. He's the one who made the Cyber Psycho BD he was watching in episode 1. What's more, David says Jimmy makes custom BDs for rich people, which means that if Tanaka is his client, he's going to meet Jimmy alone at some point. Not bad, kid. Not bad at all. Soon, Faraday gives them the info on Jimmy, and the gang lays a trap, with David acting as a superfan. David distracts him while Maine sneaks up behind him. Unfortunately, Jimmy literally has eyes in the back of his head and he sees Maine coming. He uses an EMP to take them both out and kidnaps David, making a run for it. The EMP does a number on Maine and Kiwi. They're out of commission, so Dorio sends them packing, while she and Lucy go after David using the tracker in his neck to chase him, and Lucy is pissed. Meanwhile, David wakes up in a room full of dead bodies. There is blood everywhere, and David is freaking out. That's when 2 cops show up, and David realizes he's holding a gun. The cops accuse him of being a cyber psycho and a murderer, and David says he's not, only to shoot and kill them. He does the same to a bunch of other cops before Max Tack shows up. Oh god. They shoot off his limbs, but machine guns start popping out where his arms and legs used to be. The soldiers call him a freak before shooting him in the face, only for it to turn out it was a BD. Oh. Jimmy then shows up, asking David if he enjoyed the BD. He then tells David his dirty little secret. You know that Cyber Psycho BD David watched during episode 1? Turns out, Jimmy didn't just make the Cyber Psycho BD, he made the Cyber Psycho 2. He does this to get some premium quality BD footage before repeating the cycle, and that's what he's going to do to David. Luckily, Lucy and Dorio show up and free David from the BD, but Jimmy isn't going down without a fight, and he sicks his bulletproof drones on them. Lucy needs some time to hack them, so David distracts them with his Sandy and a gun. He ends up getting cornered, but he bought her enough time to disable the drones. They're safe, and Dorio is mad. She wants to blow Jimmy's face to bits, but Jimmy folds. He says he'll help them get Tanaka, so Maine leaves Jimmy under David's watch and heads out to make a plan. There, Jimmy calls David an idiot for using the Sandy, saying it's gonna make him go cyber psycho. David disagrees, saying he's built different, but Jimmy just laughs. After all, that's what they all say. Later, Tanaka shows up at Jimmy's shop to receive a special BD, only to be ambushed by Maine, Dorio, and David. He can't call the police because of Lucy's jammer, so he shoots out some hidden needles and attacks Maine. But with David's help, Maine smacks his corpo face right into the floor. Ouch. Deserved, but still. Ouch. But Tanaka isn't the only one that got hurt. Jimmy took a needle right to the throat. He falls over and starts gushing blood, but before he kicks the bucket, he looks over at David and smiles. Creepy as hell. With the trauma team inbound, Maine grabs Tanaka and they all make a run for it. Oh, this is gonna be a mess, isn't it? Disclaimer, this is the episode that makes Cyberpunk super duper awesome, and you're about to see why. We begin with a man running through a desert. He's sweating and panting, but still going. He then makes it to the edge and stops, staring into the distance. We then hear Dorio call out Maine's name and realize that this is all in Maine's head. And it's not just mental. Maine is struggling physically too. Dorio says he needs to dial back the cybernetics a bit, but Maine doesn't want to. Mama didn't raise no. Apparently, Mama did raise a cyber psycho though. Yeah. Meanwhile, Kiwi is currently trying to hack Tanaka's mind to get some info, but it's taking too long for Maine's liking, so he attacks her. When Maine comes to, he sees Kiwi, Falco, and Dorio injured. One problem with that, he doesn't remember attacking them. Dorio knocks him out, and they need another netrunner since Kiwi's out, so they call in for David and Lucy. David sees that Maine is in a bad place and tries talking to him, only for Maine to smack him and tell him to mind his own business. Yikes. Meanwhile, Dorio asks Lucy to do the net running, but she refuses. Apparently, she won't net run on anyone from Arasaka, for reasons that will become clear later. David says she doesn't have to, so Lucy takes David outside and asks him to tell her she can do it. Huh? Lucy says they have to do this. Arasaka is always watching them after all. She just needs David to say it to her, so David grabs her hand and tells her she can do it. Lucy then tells Dorio she will, but Maine can't be in the room. Dorio agrees, and Lucy and David get to it. Lucy plugs in and dives into Tanaka's brain. Meanwhile, Maine is going cyber psycho as we speak. The poor guy is literally walking into a wall before he hallucinates Faraday and starts attacking him. Damn! While Dorio tries to get him under control, Lucy is making her way through Tanaka's mind when it suddenly starts glitching out. The bastard's waking up. David pulls out some tranquilizer to make him sleep again, but Tanaka starts talking and David hesitates. He basically says these guys are all screwed. Arasaka is gonna come for every one of them, but he says David has a chance at making it out alive and rich. All he has to do is save Tanaka, bribing his way out of bullshit. Yeah, I'm assuming that's what this dirtbag always does. While Tanaka tries to talk his way out, Lucy makes it to the place with the info and starts downloading it. That's when she sees a whole file on David and starts freaking out. Back in the real world, Tanaka suddenly gets electrocuted. Bro's flatlining. That's when Maine and Dorio show up, and they manage to save Tanaka in the nick of time. David and Dorio then pull Lucy out of the deep dive, but they've got a problem. The trauma team is on its way. Ah, man. David gets Lucy to the car, while Dorio and Maine get Tanaka free and grab him. But Maine uses a gun, so the police show up. So while Lucy and David wait in the car, Maine and Dorio are surrounded by the police and trauma team. David wants to go and help, but Lucy disagrees. She thinks he's gonna get beat if he does. David realizes Lucy saw something in Tanaka's mind that's freaking her out, but he says it's okay. It's her turn to believe in him now. He then zooms off, leaving Lucy punching the air. Meanwhile, Maine and Dorio are fighting off the police, but Maine starts going cyber psycho again. So Dorio jumps in to give him medicine and gets shot. As her lifeless body drops to the floor, any sanity Maine had left in him immediately leaves the chat. He starts using Tanaka as a weapon, killing him and every policeman he looks at. The trauma team sees that Tanaka is dead, so they try making a run for it, but Maine blows them to hell with a gas canister. Yeesh. David, meanwhile, uses his Sandy to get to Maine, and sees Dorio's body on top of 100 gas canisters. To Maine, it looks like he's gonna cremate her. Maine also almost shoots David's head off before regaining calmness and asking how David is. Standard stuff. With Max Tack on its way, David says he'll stay and save Maine, but his hands are shaking. He can't do it. Maine, who's at the edge of insanity, gains some clarity. He tells David he can't help him, so he should do what he can and run. As Max Tack bursts in, Maine shoots the canisters, setting off an ungodly explosion. And as it's happening, we see David and his Sandy turned on. This is hell, and he's experiencing it in slow motion. Lucy hears the explosion and holds her breath until David shows up, hugging Maine's robo arms. As they leave, the sun rises on them, and the episode ends with David shedding a single tear. Damn! Just damn! The next episode opens after a time skip of about a year. In that time, David has gotten super jacked, and he is now the leader of the crew. He runs missions with Kiwi, Rebecca, and Falco, and they have a new kid named Julio joining them today. David gives Julio a tech shotgun, and Rebecca gets mad at Julio for being a nerd, before Falco tells them they're arriving at their destination. A lot can change in just a year, huh? The gang then makes it to their spot, and David, Julio, and Rebecca just walk in the front door. They're instantly greeted by about 50 thugs and their guns, but Kiwi short-circuits most of them, while David and Rebecca get to blasting.
My gun!
Oh.
Anyway, I started blasting. Bah!
Wow.
Bah!
While Julio ducks like a coward, David and Rebecca expertly erase all the thugs there before running into the final boss. David takes off his jacket and boots up the Sandy, ready to crush him, only for the monster to react with the same speed. Lucky for David, he has brand new leg implants, and he uses them to jump over the freak, before using Maine's hand cannon to blast his head off. Wow! Julio sees this and is super psyched, running forward and getting blown to bits by a trap. Damn, well, bye Julio. Anyway, David and Rebecca then save a girl named Isabella, as well as other women who were being trapped here. Yeah, this guy's basically a superhero for hire now. Later at the bar, Falco congratulates David for taking over from Maine before heading out. Kiwi does the same, saying she didn't think he had it in him, before asking about Lucy. Apparently, ever since Maine and Dorio kicked the bucket, Lucy has been out of the team, and David has stopped asking for her to come back. Kiwi says it's surprising. She didn't take Lucy for someone who'd get shook. That's when Rebecca comes over trying to flirt with David, only for David to head out too. He has to see Ripperdoc. Kiwi suggests Rebecca switches up her approach, but Rebecca says she can't be dark and distant like Lucy. Speaking of Lucy, she's at home and net running for some reason. Meanwhile, the doc tells David that the fact he hasn't gone cyber psycho with all his implants is crazy. He's just like Adam Smasher, but David doesn't know who that is. So Doc tells him, Adam Smasher is an Arasaka asset that is essentially 99% machine, but he's completely unaffected by it. A living legend. David just says it's a myth and heads off before Kiwi calls him, saying there's a client looking for him. It's Faraday. Oh boy. Faraday has a job for David, and it's from Militech, aka Arasaka's main rivals. David says that's pretty risky, and Faraday says that all the best paying jobs are, but before Faraday can give him this job, he needs David to do a test job for him, to prove it to him that he's worth it. David agrees, and Faraday then asks him about Lucy. David just says she's on leave for now, but Faraday says he should try convincing her to come back, so David heads home, which is now a lavish apartment, by the way. He takes a shower and comes out booty butt naked, where Lucy greets him, also booty butt naked. Guys, please, we're trying to monetize this video. Anyway, David tells her about the job and Faraday's offer before asking her to rejoin the crew. Lucy says she needs some more time, and David agrees. After that, they both head outside the city to do some stargazing, and David asks Lucy about her past, so she finally gives in. Basically, Lucy was born in another country and was molded by Arasaka along with 12 other kids into becoming perfect netrunners. But instead of getting into nice corporate gigs when their training was over, they were sent underground and forced to explore the old net, which is basically our internet right now. Wow, I feel ancient. Essentially, Arasaka lost some information when a famous hacker took down the old internet, and it was Lucy and her friends' jobs to surf the old net and find it. But every time they went deep diving, some rogue AIs would literally bleep a few of them out, each turn. This kept happening until Lucy and her friends got frustrated and decided to escape. Since they were gonna die anyway, they might as well die chasing their own dreams instead of some lame corporate gig. They took down the tech people watching them and ran. Lucy kept running as she heard her friends getting gunned down, not stopping or turning around. When she opened her eyes, she was in a junkyard. She got out successfully. She then came to Night City because, as everyone knows, there's no better place to hide. But now she's not worried about hiding. She just wants David to be okay. That's when David's hand starts shaking, and Lucy says David's still doing what he's always done, chasing someone else's dream. They then hug and share a wholesome moment before Lucy gets an update from somewhere. Meanwhile, an Arasaka netrunner manages to recover Tanaka's files and realizes one of them is corrupted, specifically the one with David's info. He says he'll try to recover it, but immediately gets hacked and fried to death by someone. And as they emerge from the shadows, we see who it is. It's Lucy. So that's why she won't join the crew. She's out here playing assassin. Yo, that's cool as hell. Episode 8 kicks off in an Arasaka lab, where a lady asks her boss for the evening off. Her son got into Arasaka Academy and she wants to surprise him. Her boss tells her to fetch a sample and then she can leave. So she does. But when she gets back, she sees her boss's head blown off, and David is sitting there tweaking. He then gets up and shoots her in the face before getting back to his crew and acting like nothing happened. This better not be what I think it is. We then cut to Arasaka, where their counter-intel people are looking at Lucy's Netrunner murders and David's lab murders. They conclude that they're two separate people and the Netrunner takes priority. They decide to hit the fixers involved, hoping to force one of them to cooperate, and that leads to Faraday's car being attacked and blown up by some thugs. Faraday escapes and reports this to Militech, but they don't care. They've paid him a lot of money and they want results. Faraday, fearful for his life and fed up with Militech's, decides to jump ship and contacts Arasaka. You two-timing piece of. Meanwhile, Lucy wakes up to see David in front of the TV, completely zoned out. They chat for a bit and see an ad for a trip to the moon. It's not as expensive as David thought it'd be. Lucy then heads to bed, but not before seeing David's hands. They're still shaking. Meanwhile, Faraday meets the guy from Arasaka Counterintel, who agrees to take Faraday on his payroll. He then reveals the mission. Arasaka has some sort of cyber skeleton program, and it's a game changer. Militech wants it stopped. The mission David was sent on was gathering info on the cyberskeleton. Faraday says Militech doesn't know much about the cyberskeleton, and the Arasaka guy says anyone who knows anything needs to die. Faraday agrees. Uh-oh. He then tells Faraday about the Netrunner and that she needs to go, and Faraday takes the job. Oh, well that's just great, isn't it? Meanwhile, Lucy calls Kiwi to check in on how David's doing. After assuring her that he's doing fine, Kiwi says she looks forward to having Lucy back soon, before reminding her to never trust anyone in Night City. And as she cuts the call, there's someone at the door. It's Faraday. This can't be good. Meanwhile, David and Rebecca are wiping out some chooms on a job when David points a gun at one of them and freezes. He remembers the lady he gunned down and just stops. The guy almost shoots him, but Rebecca saves his ass. After the job, David drops off and Rebecca goes after him. She knows something is up with him, but he won't tell. Rebecca tells him to ease up on the implants for a while. She'll cover for him. Of course, Rebecca doesn't want to see David go cyber psycho, and while David appreciates that, he's still not slowing down. Just like Maine. Meanwhile, Lucy goes net running and sees that Arasaka is still sending runners after the info. Meanwhile, David can't sleep. He's just staring at his picture with Gloria. We then see what happened at the Arasaka lab. Basically, the job was going smoothly until David started seeing guns popping out of the dead guy and the lady's faces, just like in Jimmy's BD. Scared shitless, he pulled the trigger. While he was leaving, he saw the woman's picture with her son, and it's been haunting him ever since. Yikes. Unfortunately, this can mean only one thing: early stage cyberpsychosis. God damn it! All of this is too much for David. His nose starts bleeding and he passes out. When he wakes up, he's with Ripper Doc, all while Lucy is sleeping in the corner. Doc tells David that cyberpsychosis is upon him. He has shaking hands, nausea, dizziness, hallucinations, all the telltale signs. Doc then also adds that David needs to scale back or he will risk going crazy. So David grabs him by the throat, telling Doc to just just give him the damn meds. Lucy wakes up and stops him, and David apologizes. But Doc just gives him the medicine and tells him to go. Not like he's ever coming back here. So David and Lucy leave. What follows is a heartbreaking conversation. Lucy tries to get David to scale back on the tech, and he tries to get Lucy to join the crew again. They both refuse. David has to see out Gloria and Maine's dreams, and Lucy has to stop Arasaka from getting to David. That's when Lucy gets a ping on the same netrunner from before. She has to go. She tells David to wait for her at home and she'll be back soon. Unfortunately, she won't be back, because this was all a trap. She gets fried, and we get to see who was behind it. Faraday and Kiwi. Well, she did tell Lucy not to trust anyone in Night City, but that doesn't make this betrayal hurt any less, though. The second to last episode of Cyberpunk kicks off with the crew lying in wait for their next job, hijacking the cyber skeleton. It's paying a pretty penny, and they're all ready. What they don't know is that the whole thing's a setup. We then see the night before, with Faraday and Kiwi standing in front of a captured Lucy. Basically, the gig is a setup to get rid of David's crew, but not David. You see, after seeing his compatibility with the Sandy, Arasaka wanted to test the cyber skeleton on him. That's why they had a file on David, and that's why Lucy tried getting rid of it. Arasaka wants David as their lab rat. Kiwi isn't thrilled to betray her friends, but she's getting corporate immunity and an Arasaka gig out of this. Pretty sweet payout. David and his friends do not know Kiwi is about to backstab them, but it's too late. David's decoys start shooting the Arasaka trucks, and the heist begins. Arasaka soldiers take the decoys out, but the decoys do force them to split up. Now, with only 2 cars guarding the truck, David and his crew move in. We then see a flashback of David struggling with cyberpsychosis right before the job. Rebecca wanted to call it off, but David asked her for a favor, something only she could do. Back in the present, they take out the first truck, but start getting shot by the second. So, despite Rebecca's warnings, David uses the Sandy to take out the drivers and hijacks the car. They then plant a bomb on the truck and blow it, but the truck is unscathed. David tries to take out the driver, but there isn't one. This thing's on autopilot. We then see Faraday talking to Arasaka. Faraday tipped off Militech about the cyber skeleton because Arasaka wanted to test the cyber skeleton in battle, and they're sending a team. All the pieces are in place. The only thing left is for David to wear the cyber skeleton. What a sick bastard this Faraday is. Meanwhile, Rebecca tells David to abandon the mission. The damn truck is heading towards a canyon, but this is David. He never gives up. So he has Rebecca launch the car's harpoon and then uses it to stop the truck. Both cars go flying and the truck peacefully drops into the canyon, while Rebecca and the others make it out alive. How they survived, I will never know. While Faraday gets ready to transport Lucy in an Arasaka ship, David tries calling her and gets no answer. Duh. That's when the crew sees an explosion and a lot of cars. It's Militech, and they're here with the intent to kill. Kiwi opens up the truck so they all take cover in it. Inside they see the cyber skeleton, and everyone gawks at it. They've never seen chrome like this before. That's when Faraday uses Lucy to trick David into using the cyber skeleton. Using her voice, Faraday tells David the only way to save everyone is to use it. So with Kiwi's help and Rebecca's frustration, David locks himself in and begins wearing the skeleton. Damn! Outside, Kiwi knocks out Falco and apologizes before making a run for it. Meanwhile, Lucy breaks free and escapes before calling David. She tells him about Faraday and Arasaka's plot as she makes a run for it, but she doesn't get too far. Faraday fries her system before shooting the ground next to her head. He then calls David and reveals his double cross, egging him on to use the skeleton before hanging up. David starts tweaking with rage and is about to go cyber psycho until Rebecca hits him with his meds. He then goes back to normal and tells her what happened. That's when Falco drops down and tells them about what Kiwi is up to. With Militech's elite forces closing in on them, David has no choice. As the dust clears, we see him locked in on the cyber skeleton, and he looks mad. He begins sending Militech soldiers to hell, and we see just how decked out the cyber skeleton is. Thrusters to fly, magnets to steal weapons, gravity shenanigans, big-ass guns. All this paired with David's Sandy means 2 things. 1, he's mowing down Militech in record time, and 2, he's pushing way past his limits. The skeleton keeps injecting him with medicine every 10 seconds, and he's coughing up blood, but he's still going. After he mercilessly takes out every Militech crony there, he tells Falco and Rebecca he's going after Faraday. He's going to save Lucy. They both just sigh before smiling. They're in for the ride, and I have to warn you, this is not gonna gonna be one of the fun rides. The final episode of Cyberpunk Edgerunners begins with David and his crew heading straight for Arasaka Tower. They are going to save Lucy. Unfortunately, David has way overdone it and is dipping in and out of cyberpsychosis. He needs a nap. This kid has always had bad timing. With David going sleepy time, Rebecca and Falco do their best to take out the Militech goons following them to buy David some time. Meanwhile, Kiwi calls Faraday. She tells him David is still alive and that if by some miracle he survives, David will come after them. So Kiwi is leaving. She just wants her money. Faraday says Kiwi can't leave just yet. He needs her as backup one last time. Sick bastard. While that's happening, Falco drives past David's old home, and David starts having visions of himself walking the empty streets of Santo Domingo. He's on the edge of losing it. But as they get surrounded by Arasaka soldiers this time, the meds bring him back right to reality, and he's ready to kick. He swiftly and brutally takes out all the Arasaka soldiers and trucks, but as they keep going, David starts laughing. He's actually losing it. He then sees his mom, telling him to work hard and make it to the top of Arasaka Tower. Rebecca injects him with medicine, but it's no use. David is still talking to Gloria, so Rebecca just sits back in the car and tells Falco the meds won't work anymore. Only Lucy can save David now. Meanwhile, Faraday meets Kiwi and, surprise surprise, betrays her. He shoots her through one of his own goons. Sick. So she fries his system and makes a run for it. While David and the others make their way to Arasaka, they are greeted by a terrifying sight. 3 max-tac ships. Oh boy. Meanwhile, at Arasaka, the counter-intel lady has decided to go full nuclear. She's sending out Atom Smasher to finish David. The cyber skeleton was meant for him anyway, so it's only fitting he destroys it. Meanwhile, David is going ham on MaxTac, fueled by visions from his past. That's when MaxTac gets the word that Atom Smasher is coming in and retreats. And that's when Kiwi calls Falco. The lion, the witch, and the audacity of this. Anyway, she says she's been tapped and is gonna die soon. But before she goes, she gives our crew the coordinates of Faraday's ship. She wants to do something right before she dies. With that, Faraday's goons take her out. Sayonara, traitor. Falco uses Kiwi's info to find and smash into Faraday's ship, as he desperately tries to get to Arasaka Tower. Meanwhile, the counter-intel lady tells the guy to go and collect Lucy, but stop Faraday from stepping foot inside the tower. He's made way too much of a mess. She then asks Atom Smasher if he's excited, but the big mountain of metal just calls the cyber skeleton a child's toy. It's not even worth his time. Whew, this guy's a nightmare. Meanwhile, Faraday makes it to Arasaka Tower with David chasing him. As David looks at the city below him, he calls out to Gloria. Look, Ma, I finally made it to the top of Arasaka Tower. Damn, I can't even begin to describe the pain that this scene caused me. Meanwhile, the Arasaka dude tells Faraday he's fired, so Faraday threatens to take out Lucy and the info Arasaka needs with her. That's when our MC David bursts in using the Sandy. He frees Lucy before taking out all the Arasaka goons except the main one, who's saved by Atom Smasher. Faraday tries to make a run for it, but David crushes him with the gravity thingy, destroying his leg. He then talks to Atom Smasher, and the 2 Chrome Junkies clearly aren't getting along. That's when Trauma Team shows up for Faraday and David looks at them, only for Atom Smasher to shoot him in the stomach, telling him to focus. So David loses it and activates the Sandy. He grabs Lucy, takes out the Trauma Team, sends Faraday falling to his doom, and makes a run for it. But you can't lose Atom Smasher that easily. This bastard has a Sandevistan too. He activates it and goes after David, who grabs Lucy and jumps out of the building. With the moon in the background and the beautiful I Really Want to Stay at Your House playing, Lucy kisses an almost fully cyber psycho David, bringing him back. Absolute cinema. They talk as they fall, and Lucy says she never wanted any of this. All she wanted was for David to live. But David disagrees. He only lived for others' dreams, with none of his own. But Lucy had a dream. That's why he needs to save her from Night City. That's when Atom Smasher starts shooting at them. They slide down while Faraday falls and explodes. Serves him right. Meanwhile, Falco and Rebecca are taking cover from the police and Arasaka. when David shows up with Lucy. They put Lucy in the truck and Rebecca says she's glad to have Lucy back, for David's sake. Unfortunately, their moment is cut short by Adam Smasher coming crashing down on them. They all get sent underground, but Rebecca gets the worst of it. The bastard landed right on her and she's gone. No, gosh darn it! Falco tries stepping up to Adam Smasher and loses an arm because of it. David tries taking him on, but starts puking up blood. He's out of meds and he's at his limit. Lucy tries to fry Adam Smasher, but he just ignores it. This guy is a monster. But before Adam Smasher can attack Lucy, Falco pulls her into his car and makes a run for it. Adam Smasher tries stopping them, but David attacks with his gravity, so Adam Smasher starts mercilessly tearing David apart. Lucy tries to get Falco to turn around, but he refuses. It was David's last wish for Lucy to be safe so she could see the moon. Damn, man, my heart can't take this. David remembers his entire journey as Adam Smasher tears him limb from limb. At the end, Adam Smasher compliments David. He says he had fun and that David could be a useful tool, but David just laughs and tells him to go screw himself. With that, Adam Smasher puts a bullet in David's head, another victim lost to the void that is Night City. And yet, the city doesn't care, not even a little bit. Rest in peace, Edgerunner. Well, that was traumatic. We then cut to the moon. Turns out, with all the money David left her, Lucy decided to go there after all. With the same song playing in the background, Lucy makes her way across the surface of the moon before stopping to stare at the sun. And at that moment, the music stops, and Lucy sees it, a vision of David on the moon from when she showed him the BD. He jumps, smiling, and the music hits again. Lucy just smiles as she remembers the man she loved on the moon she loves. And as the show ends, Lucy lets the sunlight wash all over her. I'm crying, you're crying, but Lucy is smiling, because in Night City, this is as close to a happy ending as you are ever going to get. And that was our recap of Cyberpunk. Phew. I need a vacation after that emotional roller coaster. What's great about Cyberpunk is, even though we get so invested with David and Lucy and everyone else, this is just one of the stories happening in Night City. It's a setting so rich and full of character that it might as well be its own character. And with another Cyberpunk anime on its way, you can bet we will be there to cover it too. But anyway, don't go just yet. Drop your thoughts in the comments below so that I can read them. It could be standard stuff like how many times did you cry? How quickly did you add the ending song to your playlist? And why do you think Rebecca is the GOAT? Great, then we'll see you next time, and as always, thanks so much for watching.